just heard he took off. That's what I just heard, yeah. That Fred's what Fred said. Trainer. All right, thank you everyone for joining us here for the Kentucky Derby 151 Winners Press Conference. Of course, we are thrilled to be joined by the connections of sovereignty. We have the Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott. This is his second Kentucky Derby after Country House in 2019. Junior Alvarado, congratulations on your first Kentucky Derby win. And representing Godolphin, he was here yesterday for the Kentucky Oaks. We've got Michael Banahan, Godolphin's first Kentucky Derby win, but a big weekend for Godolphin. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But Junior, I would like to start with you and just ask you to please take us through that remarkable trip. You were already on the rail by the finish line. Tell us first of all about the break, and then in as much detail as you can, take us through the whole race.
You know, first of all, thank you.
Yes.
Thank Mr. Mott and Team Godolphin. Yeah, you know, he broke good. And I'll have to say probably the third or fourth jump after the break, you know, the horse next to me on the outside kind of came right in front of me. And, you know, I clip heels a little bit right there. So I'm like thinking like, oh boy, I hope he didn't lose the shoes in this track like this. But, you know, then have to kind of like just keep going and, you know, trying to save ground, trying to see my way. How could I get to save ground a little bit the first turn? And, you know, I think everything was just, you know, falling right into place for me. You know, I got to save ground the first turn. And, you know, when we turned the backside, you know, he was still, you know, traveling very beautifully until, you know, I would say we hit the 5 pole, you know, and then he kind of, that's when he kind of was saying to me, like, listen, I'm ready. So, you know, from there I started picking it up, you know, I didn't want to get too excited. And, you know, right when we turned from home and I put him in the clear on the outside, you know, I knew what he got. I knew what he's capable of, and you know, he didn't disappoint me.
And Bill, maybe if you could pick it up from there, tell us your emotions in the last, say, quarter mile or so.
Well, I was silent, I guess, until they hit the wire, but then it all came out. You know, I was lucky enough to be with my family, and we kind of had a brief celebration there until we, you know, went to the infield. Just a great feeling, and I'm so proud of the horse. I'm so proud of everybody that had anything to do with getting this horse to this point, and you know, it takes a lot of people. It takes a family and it takes a community to get them ready. Really, I mean, you know, when between the matings and raising them as babies and yearlings and, you know, breaking them as 2-year-olds, and, you know, we're lucky enough. We got very lucky to get this one in the barn, and it's just a really special feeling to win and have it happen for the team. Number one, my regular rider, Junior Alvarado. I mean, I think it made that special. I think it makes it special for both of us. And I've had quite a long relationship with the Godolphin team and the man behind the Godolphin team, Sheikh Mohammed. I think I am really thrilled and honored, and I think a lot, not only myself, but a lot of us owe him a lot for, you know, keeping Godolphin going and the breeding operation that they've got going now. Michael does a great job. Dan Pride. It's just a real, you know, solid organization, and they're team players. You know, they let you be part of the team, and, you know, they let Junior and I be part of the team and help make the decisions on what's going on, and we work good together. I think we make decisions together. We talk about the horses, and it seems like it works out quite well. It really worked out well today.
Sure did. Michael Sheikh Mohammed wanted to win this race for a very long time. It's been a big weekend for your operation. Just tell us what winning the Kentucky Derby means for Godolphin.
Well, as you said, it's been a long time in the coming, and we've had a few good chances in the past. We had Essential Quality a few years ago, and it just wasn't his day on the day. But to be able to win the Oaks yesterday and then back it up at the Derby today, and I didn't know the date of it, but it hasn't been done in 60, 70 years or something like that. So to be able to do that for our boss, the founder of Godolphin, Sheikh Mohammed, is so special. With a homebred horse, be able to get 2 colts into the race, 2 with big chances, and to be able to come out with the winner is unbelievably special for all our team. As Bill alluded to, it's a big team to take these horses, to get them here today, from foaling them out to raising them to having them in the pre-trainers, and then getting them into the trainers themselves. And this horse has never really had too many bad days. Had a little bit of a lull in the winter time, and Bill and his team did a tremendous job. We were probably up against the wire, with today being our focus and our goal. And thankfully, he at the end of the day, he didn't have a straw on his path and just got better and better. And I think everyone that saw him work out here for the last couple of weeks will realise how well he was doing, and he was ready to run the race of his life, which he did run. And Bill said to me 2 weeks ago after his second last workout that this was a serious racehorse work. When a Hall of Fame trainer like Bill Mott tells you that, that'll instill an awful lot of confidence, because he doesn't come out with terms like that too often. So I knew this horse was in excellent shape.
Bill, you were understated this week, but you did seem happy and positive. Can you just tell us about coming into the race, your confidence, and then having it validated?
Well, I didn't have any reservations about him. You know what I mean? You got to go out there and run the race. But the way the horse was doing, I really couldn't have asked for anything different in the last, 5 weeks or whatever it was since his last race. Everything had gone smoothly. And ordinarily, to win these type of races, you can't have many hiccups, in your training schedule or the way the horse is doing. And when it goes that smoothly, and you've got a talented horse and one that's capable of probably winning a race like this, it gives you a lot of confidence. And I think the one thing, I always respect the competition, and I really believe this was a very good field of Derby horses. I mean, I watched them all train all week, and there were some really nice moving horses in here. I mean, you could look at a half a dozen of them and you say, wow, this horse is really doing well. So I think we beat a group of horses that was talented and doing quite well, and obviously the horse from California that finished second was well thought of, and it makes you feel pretty good when your horse can outrun a horse like that.
A lot of people, I think, would have assumed that perhaps you backed off a little bit after the Fountain of Youth, having the points for the Derby. Would that be a fair way to characterize how you
No,
prepped him?
I don't think so. I think we just kept him on a normal schedule. I mean, I maybe I backed off a little bit because he ran such a big race off of a layoff, and maybe I backed off of him and I didn't drill him too hard, because I thought, when they come back off a layoff and they run as big as he did on that day, sometimes they can react a little bit from a race like that, and perhaps he did react a little bit in the Florida Derby, but it was still a good solid race. The fact that he had run so big the first time, and I really didn't lose any confidence in him because he finished second. I think it's probably just knowing different circumstances on the track down there, and that it probably doesn't favor a stretch closer like him.
Did today feel any different, winning the Derby the natural way?
Well, I think it does. I think it does. I really, we always take them any way we can get them, but that was pretty special. And I've raced here at Churchill Downs for over 45 years. I've been in the same barn here at Churchill Downs since 1980. And I think I've made every meet here, spring, fall, since then. And we were lucky enough to be actually something I'm very proud of. Held the title for the number of wins. I held the title for 32 years, And now these young guys they're, they've gone past me. They're chasing me. But that's the way it's meant to be. All these records are meant to be broken. But Churchill has really been special for me in my growth as a trainer. And I've trained for so many really good people from Kentucky that have supported me. And this is just carried over to today, and this was the icing on the cake. But I still want to win more.
Well, clearly you two need to talk about it, but for those that didn't get to hear the NBC interview, just your initial thoughts about Baltimore and the Preakness.
Well, I think we're going to leave that up to the trainer. He's in the Hall of Fame for a lot of good reasons. And so assess the horse and see how he comes out of the race. And he ran really hard today. And especially when you get a closer from off the pace like that, they have to lay their body on the line a little bit, So we'll see how he comes out of it. And, if he responds well, maybe we look at that, But I know we're going to jump in straight away. We'll enjoy today.
Of course.
Today was the goal. And I'd like to say, it's great having Junior back on him. He didn't ride him the last day because of an injury. And the confidence that Junior has in the horse, especially a horse coming from off the pace like that and knowing him so well, I think helped him get there today as well, because he knows that he's going to be there for him. And some riders that maybe haven't been on him before, and Manny Franco gave him a great ride down in Florida, but he probably wouldn't have had the confidence in him that Junior had, because he knows him so well. And if he's not getting there straight away, he knows he's going to be there for him. And you don't want to make it too early with him, because you can't get there at the 8th pole and say, where's the wire coming? So, great ride by Junior again today. We saw that here last year in the Street Sense when we came here and won it. And, it was a great move to get here. We knew he liked the track. We were always hungry to get back here. Gulfstream was never going to be a track that favoured him. So it was great to get back here at Churchill and see what he could really do.
Junior, I've asked the other two. Now I'd like to ask you what the Derby means to you, what winning it means.
Still sinking in, to be honest. It means the world to me, I for me and for my family, coming from my country where, the only race that we were able to watch back there was just the Kentucky Derby. It was the only race from USA we were able to watch. And that little, start getting in my head, and I said, that would be nice, be the United States right in the Kentucky Derby. Then, little by little, I think, I start, point that out to make it come true, and I think today we just did that.
Very good. Let's take some questions. Byron, let's start with you.
Michael, can you speak to the success of Into Mischief? This is his third Kentucky Derby winner, and expand on the pedigree of Sovereignty. Obviously, a lot of stamina influences in his female family.
Absolutely, and we probably had a rough start trying to figure out what mares we needed to send Into Mischief, because we saw everyone else having a tremendous success with him, and we couldn't get a winner by him. But eventually we got there, and we got with Pretty Mischievous 2 years ago in the Oaks, and we've had some nice horses by him. And again, this horse probably culminates in the best one we've had. And he's a wonderful stallion, as we know, great speed influence. But as we can see, if he gets the right mares, he can get classic mile and a quarter horses as well. So we're so grateful to be able to have the opportunity that the boss allows us to breed some great horses like Into Mischief as well, as along with our own stallions. So having that opportunity to breed to who we think are the best stallions in Kentucky gives us the chances to come and compete in these type of races as well.
Those 3 winners by Into Mischief ties a Kentucky Derby record. We got one over here. Yes, sir.
Hello, gentlemen. Congratulations, Junior. Heading into the final furlong, what did you see that made you say, "I got this"?
I think when we hit the 3 pole, I'm right behind journalism, and I know I probably would be able to move and get next to him right at that point, and I'm like just waiting. It's like I know I got him. I know I got them. I got them. So let me just wait a little bit more, and then right when we turn in for home, put him in the clear, and I still like I say let me just get there just little by little. I don't want to like I say waste my burst of punch right there and then get flat at the end. So we kind of like little by little inching it out, but I could feel it turning for home. He was gonna get there, and like I say, once we hit the 8 pole, like I knew like there is impossible way somebody's gonna be coming and beat me, because he was still running pretty hard at that point, and like I said, I always trust him. I knew what he was capable of, and like I said, it was just a great effort today.
Dave Grinning?
Bill, what was your reaction to the start of the race when he looked like he bobbled a little bit?
Yeah, I think the horse outside of him was trying to get over. Of course, that horse might have broke a little quicker than we did, and but it looked like we were still in good shape. It wasn't that troubling, and by the time he got down to the turn, I mean, he was on the fence, and I think. Look, we both know you don't win grade ones by being 4 or 5 wide on both turns. And Junior did a terrific job of getting him over. Fortunately, there was a lot of speed in the race. I mean, it set up well for us because they had an honest pace. And, when you have a good pace, the field strings out a little bit more, and it offers you an opportunity to drop in once they, line up a little bit. It gives the outside horses a chance, and that's what happened. Then he tipped him out and got him in a spot that he knew he was going to be clear down the backside.
Tom Padula?
Bill, after Country House, you had described that result as bittersweet due to the disqualification. How does this one feel?
Well, this is special. I think it's they're all special, and I don't want to take anything away from Country House's effort, because he actually ran a very good race on that day. I mean, I know he finished second, and I would say he may have been second best on the day, but it was, I guess, our luck that the horse that crossed the finish wire first unfortunately took out 2 or 3 other horses, and they had to do something. They had to put us up. And the stewards did the right thing. It took them a long time to figure out where to place everybody, but I think it was a no-brainer that they put us up, and but this is better. This is I said afterwards. I'd want to finish first, cross the line first, and I think it's I've always been interested in being part of a team, whether I was in high school sports or what it was, and it really feels good to be part of a team and know that everybody on the team has your back and you're all working for the same thing, and it's not about me. It's about what we're all working for. We're working for the entire team. We're working for we're working for the boss, the guy that gave us the opportunity to do this.
Michael, you mentioned kind of there in your opening statement about you'd had some good horses in this race in the past that weren't able to cross the line first. After yesterday's one with good cheer, did you maybe view that as potentially a good omen for today?
Well, it gave us an opportunity to win 2 of them then by winning yesterday. We had 2 horses that were training really, really well. The other horse is a Grade 1 winner already, just a nose away from winning 2 Grade 1 races. So we liked the way he was coming into the race, training super. And the same with Sovereignty. Both of them were doing as well as we could hope for. So that gave us confidence that we were going to have a chance to perform well. We knew it was a really good race. We saw what journalism did out in California. It was, one of those great traditional East versus West type of races, and I'm sure they'll have races down the road as well that they'll want to try and come back at us as well. So, but yeah, we did have, I wouldn't say confidence, but we were very hopeful that we had 2 very nice horses that were going to be able to perform on the day, and both with complementary running styles, where one was going to be up closer to the pace and one coming from off the pace. So we felt good going in there that we had a couple of a couple of angles covered. And I'm not really superstitious at all, but a good friend of mine, John Williams, who used to manage Spencer Farm and looked after Seattle Slough during his heyday out there, gave me this wolf tooth from Seattle Slough a couple of years ago, and I've had it in a box in the house, and so I said, I'm going to bring that with me today and wear that, and maybe that'll be, as you talked about, a good omen. That's the good luck charm for today. Never before, yeah. I'll wear it the next day.
Now you have to explain what wolf tooth is.
Yeah, exactly. You won't go there. We get a dentist to do that.
Should be noted also, Godolphin also won the first British Classic of the season this morning.
Yeah, so that was a great result for Team Godolphin in Europe. Charlie Appleby, he had 2 horses in the race, and they were fighting out the finish. And one horse ended up winning the race, and the other one was third. So that was a great start for our Godolphin European team, and I know they were very excited about that. And they have a filly in the 1,000 guineas tomorrow, which is their second classic, which they really like, and I think they thought that was their best opportunity on the weekend. So maybe they can double up like we did here in the U.S.
Yes, sir.
Bill, since we've been sitting here, I noticed that you keep looking back up at the loop of the replay.
I
Is
never
it
get
surreal?
enough of it. You know,
Yeah.
I just it was it's really great to watch.
Looking for something in particular, or
You know, actually, I'm fascinated by the trip that he got. I mean, I think it's just great here. You know, look at they're lining up across the racetrack, and it looks like a cavalry charge. And by the time they get down to the turn, I mean, Junior's on the fence. And you know, I think we've both got the same theory that you know you're not going to be wide on both turns and win these kind of races. Just not going to happen. So he got in a good spot. Look, he's right on the fence there, and then you know he picks his spot from there.
Oh, Jason.
Junior, how much of any were you tracking journalism? It looked like you all kind of made your moves simultaneously almost.
Well, you know, I was first, you know, he got into a beautiful rhythm. So, and I knew I got Sandman like right behind on the outside. So I was like, before I make any move, you know, I got to make sure, you know, he don't get the jump on me. At the same time, you know, I got to make sure too that he doesn't try to keep me boxed, you know. So I'm, you know, just trying to act like I was in a hurry. Then all of a sudden, you know, I get to see where journalism was, and, you know, I let my horse kind of move a little bit forward, and then I could feel how, you know, Jose Ortiz started picking it up and tried to go with me, and you know, after that, I think, you know, like every move I was making, you know, I was just, you know, that horse was just there for me every single time, and like I said, you know, I wouldn't be able to done that with a horse that, you know, I have to say I make probably between 6 to 7, 8 little move that he was there for me in each time.
Junior, when you enter the spring on a horse this good, and then you have what happened at Gulfstream with the heart attack and the spill, how scary was that for you, knowing that, you know, possibly maybe you don't get this opportunity?
Yeah, I was completely heartbroken. You know, I thought that was it. I knew that was this horse. All along, I knew this was the right horse for me to win the Derby. You know, and I always say, well, you know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But at the same time, like I say, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another horse like this if I don't get back on time. But once again, you know, I got the call the next day when I get out of the hospital. Mr. Mott said, listen, you do what you need to do, and, you know, you'll get to ride all the horses back. Just, you know, I think that gave me a hell of a peace of mind and to do what I needed to do the right way to recover properly, and I just did that.
Junior, you said it was still sinking in. When is it going to sink in?
I don't know. It's still, like I say, I try to think what word can I use when people ask me, like, what does it feel to win the Derby? And I don't know if I'm going to be able actually to find the right word that can describe this feeling that I have in this right now.
Dana?
Bill, you said you started coming here 45 years ago, and I'm just trying to understand kind of what that version of you thought of the possibility of this race versus this version of you kind of sitting up there having kind of achieved it?
You know, I listened to my first Derby, I guess, when I was probably 14 years old, and I was sitting in the front seat of a GMC pickup with a trailer behind it. It was owned by Keith Asmussen, by the way. And I listened on an AM radio to the call of the race of Proud Clarion winning the Derby with Bobby Ussery up. And from where I started, that was Fort Pierce, South Dakota, by the way. And never dreaming that I'd ever come to Kentucky. I mean, I never even imagined that I would ever be here. I never imagined even being at Churchill Downs. And to wind up having number one, the win title here and winning so many races here. I mean, I was very proud of that, and I looked back at that time and I thought, I can't even imagine, at that time I couldn't even imagine being at Churchill Downs. It was a dream that was even too far away for me. And to be sitting up here, I mean, and thinking back at that, whether it was 1967 or what it was, and it's, you know, like going to outer space.
Junior, I was wondering if you could just describe obviously you had the physical challenge of what happened to you in Florida, but just the mental challenge of going through what you went through this year, going through what you went through on Thursday. How did you maintain your confidence throughout the last couple months and through today?
You know, I have to say I have a lot of faith in God, and I just keep every day since I got the injury, you know, I just keep telling God, just please heal me, and you know, like, you know, if it's meant to be, I know you're gonna put me right back in action before the Derby, and you know, once again, like I say, when Mr. Mott called me the day after I got out of the hospital, you know, it gave me a big peace of mind. You know, that you don't get that in the business often. You know, it's because this is the nature of the business. You know, somebody will get to ride the horse, you ride him good, and you know, you get to keep him because the guy did a good job how you get him off. You know what I mean? So I understand that too, but once again, like I say, just having the peace of mind and being able to do what I needed to do, it just, you know, it's something that I always, you know, and will appreciate from Mr. Mott.
Nicole.
Michael, I know you've been asked a little bit about this horse's pedigree and Into Mischief, but could you talk a little bit about the female side of his family, particularly being out of a Bernardini mare who's just been amazing?
It was fantastic, and Ground was she was a lovely mare that we bought, and unfortunately she had a few niggles, never really made it to the racetrack. But the person you need to talk about that is this man over here, because he's trained most of the family in there, going back about 3 generations, and he's had great success with that whole family.
And it is fun. It makes it fun because I trained the third dam, and the third dam was out of a mare called Lakeway that won the Alabama, and I was part of the team that bought her. Her name was Sluice. She was out of Lakeway, and I was able to train her, and we won a graded stake with her in Chicago. And then she produced a mare called Mushka, and I was lucky enough to get Mushka, and I actually trained her for 2 different owners, and we won the Spinster with her. And then Mushka, in turn, produced Crowned, and then Godolphin bought Crowned, but it's kind of a neat thing to be able to train those families and those generations of horses, and you know, it might be telling my age a little bit, but it really makes it pretty special.
Yeah, Michael, obviously, you know, Godolphin's had a number of horses that have come here before. Was there ever a thought that, you know, what was it going to take to, you know, finally get a winner, or do you ever doubt that you would be up here in a spot like this?
Well, I think as long as we got the type of horses to give us an opportunity to get up here and to be able to compete in the Derby, that's all we can ask for. Any horse that wins the Derby gets the great trip out there. Junior alluded to it already. Everywhere he went, he got where he needed to be. As Bill also said, needed to be able to get over to the rail and be able to save ground as well. And you see every Derby winner that have, it seems like they travel around the racetrack in this bubble, and no matter where they go, things open up for them. Same with him today now. Obviously, at the start, that was a little bit scary. But other than that, he had a great trip around there. The horse takes dirt very well, so that's not an issue being down close to the rail as well. So, do we expect to win these type of races? No, you don't. You just expect to have some nice horses that you can give them the opportunity, give them to great trainers like we have. We have 5 trainers here in the US. Every one of them had a runner this weekend in graded stakes races. We're fortunate enough for 3 of them to win races as well. So it's just an opportunity to give those horses the best chance that they can have. And if we get one good enough to win the Derby, fantastic. We're delighted. And are we going to try again next year? Sure, we're going to try again next year. And the year after. Will we get here? Who knows? But we'll be certainly trying, that's for sure. And, we're very fortunate that we had a great crop of 3-year-olds. Last year as 2-year-olds, they were really nice. We had 4 horses that won graded races that you could term as prep races at the end of their 2-year-old career to be going into their 3-year-old year. So we were excited about having 4 of them. It took 50% of that to get here today, to get one of them to win it. So it takes a big effort to be able to get here, and we don't take it lightly. But we certainly don't think that just because we have some nice horses that we're going to be able to get up, sit at this table, and be the winner of the race. The boss ran a lot of horses in Europe, a lot of horses in the Epsom Derby, and it took an awful lot of horses to get there before Massar eventually won the race for Godolphin. And we had great horses that ran that race. The one that the boss would always consider maybe his best horse in Dubai Millennium, and he ran there and ran 2 free and didn't get the distance that day. So it takes a very, very good horse to win these races, and we were fortunate enough to have Sovereignty be able to show his true talent today.
Bill, a lot of folks here would like to come by the barn in the morning to maybe get a peek at the Derby winner and get an update from you. Is there a time that you feel comfortable telling everyone to stop by?
10:30 or 11. No, I'm just kidding. No, Jenny Reese will beat me there probably. But we'll be there. We'll be there early. We'll be there by daylight, put it that way.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Well, I believe Governor Beshear would like to visit with you all and have a toast over at the Kentucky Derby Museum, so we're going to let you go.
All right.
Congratulations
Very
once
good.
again to the Kentucky Derby winning connections.